wolf lunges at your throat in the firelight, then stops, licks your hand, curls up at your feet, and 20,000 years later, you've got a pug wheezing on your couch wearing a sweater. That's not evolution. That's a heist, the greatest biological hijacking in the history of life on Earth. And it started with hunger, fire, and a decision that changed both species forever. Here's what nobody tells you. Dogs didn't happen by accident. Ancient humans engineered them, generation by generation, selecting traits that would horrify a wolf. They turned apex predators into animals that fetch sticks, sleep on their backs, and literally evolved to read human facial expressions. We built dogs the way we'd later build cars, custom, deliberate, obsessive. And the process was so precise, so ruthless, that modern geneticists look at dog DNA and see something closer to a science experiment than natural selection. The transformation began in Siberia, maybe northern China, possibly both. The dates keep shifting as new dig sites surface, but the evidence clusters around 15 to 40,000 years ago. Wolves were everywhere. Humans were struggling. Both were hungry. And at some point, in the bitter cold of the last ice age, the distance between their campsites started shrinking. Picture this: a small band of hunter-gatherers roasting mammoth meat over an open flame. The smell drifts across the tundra. Wolves circle at the edge of the firelight, eyes glowing amber, calculating risk versus reward. Most wolves see humans as competitors or threats. They keep their distance. But some wolves, the outliers, the desperate, the slightly less aggressive ones, creep closer. They snatch discarded bones, gnaw on scraps, then retreat into darkness. The humans notice something. The bold wolves, the ones willing to approach, start appearing night after night. They're not attacking, they're scavenging. And here's where it gets interesting. Those wolves begin performing a service. They bark when other predators approach. They clean up rotting meat that would otherwise attract bears or hyenas. They become an early warning system, a mobile garbage disposal, a living perimeter alarm. So the humans don't chase them off, they throw scraps deliberately. And the wolves that tolerate human presence eat better than the wolves that don't. Better food means more surviving pups. And those pups inherit whatever genetic quirk made their parents less fearful in the first place. This is the selection pressure that cracks the species open. Fear is governed by stress hormones, brain chemistry, the architecture of the amygdala. The wolves that could dampen their fight-or-flight response around humans had offspring that dampened it further. Within 10 generations, you'd see behavioral shifts. Within 100 generations, you'd see physical changes that seemingly had nothing to do with behavior. And that's where it gets weird. In the 1950s, a Soviet geneticist named Dmitry Belyaev started an experiment with silver foxes. He wanted to test whether selecting only for tameness, literally just choosing the foxes least afraid of humans, would trigger the same cascade of changes seen in domestic animals. He didn't breed for floppy ears. He didn't breed for curled tails or spotted coats. He only bred the calmest foxes with each other. By the 4th generation, the foxes were wagging their tails. By the 6th, some had floppy ears. By the 10th, their coats showed patches of white and brown, their faces shortened, their legs got stubbier, their barks became more frequent and higher pitched. Belyaev had accidentally recreated the dog blueprint, and the reason is burned into mammalian biology. Tameness is linked to lower adrenaline. Lower adrenaline affects the cells that migrate during embryonic development, the neural crest cells that shape skull structure, coat color, ear cartilage, tail curvature, even tooth size. When you select for behavior, you drag along a suite of physical traits scientists call the domestication syndrome. Floppy ears, shorter snouts, curled tails, patches of white fur, retention of juvenile features into adulthood. Every major domestic mammal shows this pattern: dogs, pigs, horses, rabbits, cattle. They all look like baby versions of their wild ancestors because tameness and neoteny are molecularly intertwined. So when ancient humans fed the calmest wolves, they weren't just encouraging friendly behavior, they were sculpting anatomy. The wolves that stayed started looking less like wolves, smaller teeth because they weren't hunting megafauna anymore, shorter snouts because a massive jaw is heavy and metabolically expensive when you're eating leftovers instead of taking down elk. More expressive faces because communication with humans required readable signals. And then humans noticed. The wolves with floppy ears were easier to approach. The ones with white patches were easier to spot in low light. The ones that barked higher were less threatening. So humans started choosing, not just tolerating the calm ones, but actively keeping the ones that fit their needs. That's when domestication became design. By 12,000 years ago, the archaeological record explodes with dog burials, not wolf burials, dog burials. Ancient peoples in Germany, Israel, Siberia. They're interring dogs with care, sometimes with jewelry, sometimes beside human remains. One burial site in Israel shows an elderly woman with her hand resting on a puppy. Another in Germany contains a dog with a mammoth bone carefully placed in its mouth. These aren't animals you kill for pelts or meat. These are family. But dogs weren't uniform. Different groups needed different tools. In the Middle East, early farmers needed animals to guard grain stores and herd goats. They selected for attentiveness and territorial aggression toward strangers, but gentleness toward livestock. In the Arctic, nomadic hunters needed dogs that could haul sleds across frozen tundra and survive on seal blubber. They bred for endurance, thick coats, and the ability to sleep in sub-zero wind. On the Pacific Islands, humans needed small dogs that wouldn't eat much and could navigate boats. They bred for size reduction and docility. And this is where it gets almost eerie. Dogs began adapting to human culture faster than humans adapted to new environments. When agriculture emerged 10,000 years ago, human genes for digesting starches became more common. But dog genes for digesting starches exploded. Dogs living alongside farming communities evolved extra copies of the amylase gene, which breaks down starch. Dogs became biologically optimized for eating human leftovers in under 3,000 years, a blink in evolutionary time. They also evolved to read us. Wolves don't follow human pointing. They don't instinctively look where a human looks. Even hand-raised wolves, socialized from birth, can't decode human gestures the way a 10-week-old puppy can. Dogs have specialized facial muscles. Wolves lack muscles that lift the inner eyebrow to create that wide-eyed, pleading look that humans find irresistible. Brain scans show that when dogs look at human faces, the same reward centers light up as when they see food or other dogs. We're not just their food source, we're their species. They've neurologically bound themselves to us. But ancient humans didn't stop at behavior. They wanted variety. They wanted specialists. By 4,000 years ago, Egyptian tomb paintings show at least 4 distinct dog types: a greyhound-like sprinter, a heavy mastiff-type guard dog, a small companion breed, and something resembling a Basenji. The Romans had sheepdogs, war dogs, lap dogs, and trackers. Medieval Europeans bred wolfhounds tall enough to hunt boar, terriers small enough to chase rats underground, and retrievers obsessed with carrying objects in their mouths without biting down. Each breed represents a genetic bottleneck, an intentional narrowing of traits. You take the dogs that hunt best and breed only them. Their offspring inherit the hunting drive, but also the inbreeding. Do this for 20 generations, and you get incredible specialists in catastrophic health problems. Modern pugs can't breathe. Bulldogs can't give birth naturally. German shepherds have hip dysplasia engineered into their spines. Cavalier King Charles Spaniels have skulls too small for their brains. Every modern breed is a testament to human ambition and a warning about playing God with genetics. But ancient breeders didn't have kennel clubs or breed standards. They had needs. A sled dog that couldn't pull was food. A guard dog that didn't bark was useless. A herding dog that chased instead of circled was called. The selection pressure was brutal and immediate, which is why dogs became so good at their jobs so fast. Humans weren't breeding for cuteness. They were engineering survival tools that happened to have 4 legs and a heartbeat. And the dogs that survived weren't just obedient, they were adaptive. When humans moved into cities, dogs followed. When humans crossed oceans, dogs came aboard. When humans went to war, dogs carried messages, pulled carts, stood guard, and died alongside soldiers. The partnership deepened with every generation until the line between species and family blurred completely. Fast forward to the 20th century, and geneticists start cracking the code. They sequence dog DNA and realize something shocking. Every single dog breed on Earth, from Chihuahuas to Great Danes, descends from wolves with almost no genetic input from other wild canids. No jackal, no coyote. Pure wolf lineage, fractured and reshaped. And the genetic diversity among dogs is greater than the diversity among all wild wolf populations combined. We took one species and exploded it into hundreds of forms in less than 15,000 years. That's faster than almost any evolutionary change in mammals. Faster than humans developed agriculture. Faster than horses became rideable or cats became tolerant. And it happened because humans are relentless selectors. We see a trait we like: loyalty, speed, size, silence, aggression, gentleness, and we amplify it until it defines the animal. The strangest part? Dogs changed us too. Studies show that humans with dogs have lower cortisol, higher oxytocin, and increased survival rates after heart attacks. Ancient peoples with dogs could hunt more effectively, secure campsites better, and traverse harsher climates. Dogs extended our sensory range. They detected threats we couldn't smell, tracked prey we couldn't see, and guarded food stores while we slept. They weren't just companions, they were biotechnology, wearable evolution, a second nervous system wired into human survival. And modern dogs still carry that ancient contract. Every time a dog checks if you're okay, every time it waits by the door, every time it barks at a stranger or retrieves a ball for the 100th time, it's executing code written into its ancestors 20,000 years ago. The wolf that curled up by the fire won the genetic lottery. Its descendants inherited the earth, or at least the parts of earth we let them sleep on. So when you look at a dog, you're not seeing nature. You're seeing the longest-running biological experiment in human history, a collaboration between two predators who realized they could survive better together than apart. Wolves taught us loyalty. We taught them trust. And in the space between hunger and firelight, we built something neither species could have become alone. The wolf that didn't run now sleeps at the foot of your bed, dreams of chasing things it will never catch, and wakes up just to make sure you're still breathing.